Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am PANCZASU and welcome to my Endless Legend speedrun. What do I mean by speedrun? Well, I'm not going to time myself with reward timers and say that I have to beat this game as quickly as possible down to the very last second. No, instead I'm just simply going to beat this game as quickly as possible turn-wise and just show you the most aggressive tactics in this game that you could use against your opponents. Now, because I know that this game is getting closer and closer to its official gold release, I'm going to try and focus on tactics that will be universally useful for you, by which I mean the tactics that are useful not only in this patch, but also in the future patches as well. So I'm going to specifically point out all the things that I'm going to say which are only good in this particular patch, and which are not. Which is, I believe, a fairly important thing. Now, what else do I mean by speedrun? Well, the game is going to be quite speedy indeed. It is going to be played on endless difficulty, which is the hardest difficulty of this game, which is that hard. And I'm also going to play on fast speed, because while it is true that I only care about beating this game as quickly as possible turn-wise, I also have a limited amount of time in real life as well to record those videos, because I'm about to leave my home for quite a long time and I want to be done with this playthrough before then, so in all actuality I have only 2 days. So there's that. Minor faction difficulty I'm actually going to drop down all the way to easy. Now you may be wondering why this is. That is because in the current state of the game, minor factions are too difficult for the AI itself. They're not too difficult for players. You can deal with that. I have shown you how many times before, even when they are very strong. But AI right now has some serious difficulties dealing with the minor factions, so I'm going to turn them down as much as possible in order to try and allow the AI to grow without stumbling upon, minor factions that are just killing them. It will be changed in the future, don't you worry about that. Trust me when I say this. What else do I need to do? Well, just have a quick peek at the advanced settings. There is nothing to be done over there, because, I don't want to have anything timed. But the region size is also going to be normal. However, the temperature is going to be temperate, and the world shape is indeed going to be a large Pangea. Are you supposed to see those things? Maybe you are. I'm getting confused between this build and the VIP build, but if you can see those settings here, then I guess they are available to everybody. Alright, either way, I'll be playing on a large Pangea, so a lot of mass, not a lot of ocean. Although in all honesty, I could make it faster by making this a small Pangea. Which I'll do, why not? And the world size is also going to be small, so we are all going to be very cramped up. There is going to be little to no room to expand, and war is going to be brewing from the very start. This is something similar that I did in Endless Space, except this time in Endless Legend. When we go into advanced settings, oh, there are so few of them. Yeah, when we go into those settings, I don't need to change anything. World wrap. Well, I cannot pronounce this word correctly. Either way, this is going to stay on. As for my empire, well, first things first, we want 6 empires. You didn't see that, by the way. And as for my empire, who am I going to play as? I know that many of you, and myself included, really want me to play Necrophages. I'm yet to make a proper video guide, tutorial, whatever you want to call it, for Necrophages. But there is a reason. You know the reason. You have known the reasons for a very long time. It's those guys. I promise you, next patch that comes out, yeah, those guys will be awesome. I think I can tell you that without breaking any NDAs, because that's actually on the developer blog, so yeah. But it's next patch, which isn't here yet, so I'm not gonna record Necrophages as of right now. Instead, I'll record them when I'm back home. So sorry people, I promise to deal with them as soon as possible after that. Who am I going to play as instead? I need to play as a faction that is warmongering, but not as warmongering as Necrophages, because I cannot play as them. So, who am I left with? Well, let's discuss the warmongeriness of each faction. Roving clans, I have shown you before. They are very warmongery, and they are amazing at war. However, as I have also shown you before, it takes them until at least turn 2 to actually turn their warmongering nature on. And they usually win fights via the use of privateers, which you can have some troubles recruiting early in the game. So they are no-go, besides I just finished a playthrough with them. Wild Walkers. They are actually pretty good at rushing the enemy because of the Dakar Ranger and the insane amount of production that they gain from living towns. It was a choice that I was considering However, it is not the choice that I decided to go with. Broken Lords are not the kind of warmongers I would play as right now. While the Star Wars in combination with a hero are a fairly decent unit, especially if they manage to kill people, because then they steal their life, the overall tactic for Broken Lords works best when they are allowed to expand limitlessly. They are very powerful when they build large empires, wide empires, instead of tall empires, so they need to have as many cities as possible to actually be effective. On a tiny map, not the best choice. Voters, no. Marines aren't that bad, but they're not that good either. Same goes for Dawnfishers, or Tyrants, or anything really. No, they're not the warmongering type faction. Necrophages, yeah, don't talk about them. So we're left with Ardent Mages, and as it turns out, I actually used to have an Ardent Mage playthrough that was never finished. And I never intend to finish it because it was started when the patch I started in, rather, is fairly old right now. So it's no longer, the start of this Ardent Mage playthrough is no longer valid. Besides, I have learned some more tricks as them. So there's one reason to record some more footage of their early game, and reason number 2 is actually fairly substantial. It is because they are extraordinarily good early game warmongers. While it is true that their warlocks are just good but not hugely amazing, although their life certainly is, this unit is what wins wars for you, Attaché Zealot. Because it has fairly decent stats, yes, but it has area of effect damage, which is incredibly enormously useful. Now, you have to keep in mind, this is the current patch that I'm discussing. So, Attaché Zealots right now are bad, no doubt about that. It is going to be changed, however, what you need to keep in mind is that regardless of everything, Attaché Zealots will always be a ranged unit and have area of effect attack. And those two things I can stably focus my gameplay on. Now, there is also another reason why Ardent Mages are the choice that I will go for, because you know, those Zealots, you can gain them from your faction quest. So you gain a fairly powerful army early on, and I guarantee you, no matter what patch it is or how badly the Zealots are nerfed, either way, once you gain 2 of them for free, you actually all of a sudden have a fairly sizable army compared to any of those other guys that are probably unable to stand toe to toe against you, with the exceptions of Necrophages and Roving Clans perhaps. So yeah, Ardent Mages are amazing warmongers, and they deserve to have a finished playthrough, so that is exactly what I'm going to give you. As for my enemies, the standard, applies. I'm just going to go for every other faction that is in there, and then I'm going to pause the videocast, or recording the videocast rather, because I'll need to generate the world, which always takes a while, so stay tuned, I'll be right back once we're in the game. Alright, we have loaded in, and it looks like we are bordering an enemy already. That is good news. And from the color of the borders, I can tell that those are voters nearby. Good, easy prey, easy victory, exactly what we needed. So, what do you do when you spawn as a super warmongering Ardent Mage? You look, as you would in every situation, for a place to settle. Let's stand on the grid for the time being, but in all honesty, this looks kinda amazing already. I have escape specimens right here, which is fairly good. It's not some sort of amazing anomaly or anything of the sort, but they do give you a nice boost of both food and dust, which you will both need. And right next to them there are Mechordia, or whatever you're supposed to call it, whatever. And this is actually amazing because it gives us happiness boost. So before I proceed further, I should probably show you what exactly does it mean that I'm playing the game on endless difficulty. First things first, obviously, the AI is playing as well as it can, which right now doesn't mean anything, but in the future patches, AI is actually going to scale on the difficulty levels. I'm pretty sure, however, that AI will always try its hardest already on normal level. I think that's how it's going to be. I can't guarantee that it will not change, but on harder levels it also gains some unfair advantages, while humans get unfair disadvantages. So in this case, as you can see, I'm gaining a -2 happiness from the game difficulty. It's a fairly small penalty considering the fact that in Endless Space it was much higher, but then again, Endless Space had a different balance. I also, as you can see, gain... What? I gain dust? That doesn't make any sense. plus 20%. That has to be some kind of UI back. Either way, I'm not supposed to gain that. I suppose everything is harder for me. That's what it boils down to. And more importantly, my units are much weaker as well. That is the most important thing that you need to keep in mind while playing on Endless. Your units are weaker. The end. You need to deal with that because you will have a very tough time if you don't. Alright, so as I said, two fairly nice anomalies, one of which gives us happiness, which is very useful and important. Nearby, in this region, we have glass steel, so already we know we want to settle here. Glass steel is super important for Ardent Mages, because it gives us initiative. And initiative is extremely important for those guys. Zealots are notorious for their pathetically low initiative. There aren't too many units that have initiative of 4 or less for any of the major factions, and out of all the ranged units in this game, Zealots have the smallest initiative, which is fine because otherwise they would be even more overpowered than they already are. But pair that with the fact that they have no defense, and they really seriously need to have a glass steel equipment to protect them and to give them a better initiative. So glass steel, when you're looking for a region to settle, top priority, really, I mean it, seriously, grab glass steel. Second priority, a really good location to settle, and the more anomalies you have, the better, although it's not a crucial thing for you. So this location is quite perfect. It has two anomalies, one of which gives us happiness, which is again one of the top priorities, and it has a lot of foods nearby, which gives us both food and production. I can't complain about this. It doesn't give us a lot of science, this location, but as Ardent Mages, you never care about science because you have this pillar of knowledge. It is going to give you all the knowledge and science you need for your early game warmongering purposes, and after that, you will not need any science because you will have won the game, so there is that. There is also a secondary alternative that I think is quite decent, and that's this location. There's a river, there's plenty of food, dust, and production, not dust, food, industry, and science. However, I really like this location. Before I make any choice, however, let us play this properly and actually scout around a little bit. Hi there, AI number 5, also known as the voters. They're right there, aren't they? Yeah, they have to be really close by, because apparently my unit has just seen them. And indeed, those are the city borders. Man, we are close to each other. Yes, indeed we are. Alright. So, dear warlocks, please go ahead and scout for me. But in fact, you know what? I'm going to keep them in a single formation. Reason being, I will need to save as much dust as humanly possible. And now you may be saying to yourself, hey, that's not what you usually do, Pancake. No, indeed it's not. Usually I believe that the benefit of scouting a lot with as many armies as possible outweighs the amount of dust that you will need to spend for maintaining so many armies and scouts. True. However, when you want to be warmonger as an Ardent Mage, you need to save your dust as much as literally possible. As much as humanly possible, rather. In fact, I'm almost tempted to not scout at all, but this would be dumb because you also need to have some scouting information to fight. So I will scout, but only with a singular army. Now, I need to settle a city right here, which I just blocked for myself, that is smart. So what I need to do, if you are in such a situation and cannot settle a city where you want to settle, it's very simple. I'll assign you a hero, it's not a problem. Move your settler to this tile. That's good. Then merge your settler with your original army and deploy right here. So in the end, all the movements I did meant nothing, that's true, but again, it doesn't really matter in the end. So, what can I do with my hero? Well, when you look at our hero for the Ardent Mages, those guys are really not that good at anything in particular, especially once we venture into the skill tree. Yes, they do give us bonus science on a city, that's a flat bonus, mind you, so it's pretty good, I admit. And then what do they give us? Extra attack. What? That doesn't synergize well at all. Then what we have? More science for anomaly, which is actually a fairly bad boost. Yay. Then what do we have? More attack on hero. What? So yeah, you can see how this hero is really... Those kind of heroes have no idea what they're supposed to do. And yes, I know it's a she, okay? I know it's a she. Please, just spare it. Alright, either way. I mean, if I had to choose, I would say that Ardent Mage hero is possibly slightly better skill-wise to be a governor. However, on the same side, you could argue that she's a better general, purely because she is a ranged hero who has last stand. Obviously, she is fast, which is fairly important, and she has very good stats as well, and she's ranged, which is important. So I usually tend to keep her as my general. In addition, she has some fairly good warmonger skills, like for example extra defense, which we will use, extra attack, which is insanely useful, extra attack again, which is again quite useful, extra attack on herself, useful, extra experience for units that every hero has, still useful. Yeah, she's a good warmonger hero, so I would argue that she's best kept with an army to level her up and to actually lead an army into battle. She's pretty good at that. Now, what do I want to do with the pillars? Because if you have watched my previous playthrough, you know that there are such things as pillars for the Ardent Mages. What do you want to do with those? My advice: place your first pillar of knowledge ASAP, on turn 1, done. My advice number 2, place the second one as soon as you have the dust for it. Right now I did not, but can I still place it? That would be cheating. I'm not supposed to be able to place it down because I don't have enough dust. Either way, if I did, or rather, as soon as I do, I'm going to put down the second pillar because I'll need this early game not happiness, science quite badly. So there's my science done. As you can see right now, I'm getting a lot of science from the towns surrounding my city, including the city itself as well. So this is good. This takes care of our science business. What do I want to do with the said science, you may ask? Well, that's a good question, and I'll answer gladly. The best combination, and trust me, I have tested this for at least before recording this, 30 minutes, and before that, after so many times playing this game normally, across several playthroughs, yeah, way more than that. So trust me when I say this, the best opening tech for warmonger as Ardent Mages is Mill Foundry into seed storage, into public library, into a zealot. If you are playing on a map with only a few people, like 4 or less players, change the order around, go for zealots first, and then for the public library. Trust me, I have experience, I have a lot of experience, and I know what I'm saying. Now the reason why you want public library before the zealot, even though you are a warmonger, is fairly simple. Because of your pillars of knowledge, you'll gain your zealot very quickly, regardless if you go for it first or before public library or after public library. However, public library will allow you to gain even more science without spending dust on it, and you will need the science to try and gain other technologies as quickly as possible. What do I mean by that? It actually depends on your situation, but usually it's either this technology, which gives you access to glass steel, or this technology, which gives you access to more heroes. Most of the time, however, I would argue that glass steel is more important if you can gain access to it. But it depends on what happens in the playthrough, so right now I'm not queuing anything else. Still, this opening queue up technology thingy is the best. Trust me, I have tested this a lot, and it will allow your city to grow fastest than any other build, which is important. Not necessarily grow, actually. You can grow your city faster, but this will allow you to create unit building potential per se, which is the thing you care most about when you are a warmonger. So in our city, what do I want to do first? Well, I'm very lucky. As you can see, I can get an additional population point in a single turn, and if I move population around, yeah, it drops, as I thought. But either way, gaining a population in a single turn, useful. What you want to start with is 2 population. 2 population is really nice, it gives you plenty of resources for early game, and you can work with that quite wonderfully. So unless you are starting in a really bad location with no food whatsoever, in a desert or something, when you are not going to gain a second population anyway, then I would strongly recommend you focus on food until you gain a second population. If, however, you see that there is no way you can gain a second population anytime soon, you might consider switching to industry production instead, so you can gain your food producing structures faster instead, so you can actually gain your second point of population sooner. However, most of the time, get second point of population as quickly as possible. What do we start making? Founders Memorial. We only have choice between this and the Warlock, and we're not going to be using a lot of Warlocks anyway, so we want to have the Founders Memorial. Done. So there is that. Good. Anything else I need to do? Nothing. I have used all my movement, everything is done, and I'm about to gain my faction quest. So let's end this turn happily and wait for the events to unfold. There we go. Now this is actually fairly unlucky. The first quest has a random reward. This reward can be anything, starting from a weapon, going through dust, and ending with luxury or strategic resources. I have had let's try this again. I have seen a reward being stockpile of Titan Bones, enough to activate it right away, which was very nice. I have seen this reward to be something as insignificant as 8 dust, which is still very useful in early game. And yeah, sometimes you gain a weapon, which is completely worthless because 1. It's a tier 2 weapon, which costs 6 glass steel. Think about it, you need this glass steel very badly for your zealots. By the time you gain this glass steel, you're also probably going to get better weapons than this, because this weapon gives you, yeah, +2 to attack and +5 to critical, which is pretty bad! Really bad in fact, considering what you can alternatively get for a smaller amount of glass steel. No! Just don't even think about equipping those weapons, they are bad. I think I have seen one that was half decent that I actually used across all my playthroughs. Don't bother. So this is fairly annoying, but I'll still try to complete my faction quest as quickly as possible because of the rewards I will gain afterwards. So right now, what do I need? I need to parley with 2 villages. That's nice. What do I need to parley? I need the technology to parley. Do I have it? No. So, alright, I forgot to mention that. When do I want to get this technology? Well, I like this setup really badly. I really like it, and I think you should stay with it, especially since you may be attacked by somebody. It does happen. But what do you need after that is definitely the language square. After this you will be able to progress through your story very quickly. I have tried before using a different tech order, like so and then like so. But this delays your zealots quite significantly, and you can start making those zealots very early on, which I would personally encourage above finishing the faction storyline. Yes, it will give you 2 units for free later down the line, but you will spend quite a lot of time gaining those 2 free units, and it sometimes is just more worth it to just make them yourself and then have a boost of 2 free units as a backup per se, if you need it. It is a good idea to have it as a backup and nothing else really in my opinion, but this is something that you can actually modify if you prefer to have 2 units for free before actually making those units. This actually doesn't make much of a choice if you go for this technology first or this technology first. It doesn't matter too much, it's personal preference, and I think it's better to do it this way, but it's not a very big deal. Alrighty then. What do I want to do with my units? Well, just visit as many of those unspoiled ruins as possible, because they can give me dust, which I need quite badly to activate my second pillar. Alright, what happened in my city? It has grown population. Now this is important, you have the population, right? Automatically it is separated between food and industry. Do you want it to stay this way? No, you don't. You certainly do not, because you are a warmonger. What you want instead is this. Wait. Hold on a second. No. Hold on a second. I think this is actually a very significant difference. Alright, so here's how it goes. Okay, you need to look very carefully when you on the terrain you have settled on. Right now, what do I see? I see that I actually have a fairly big big amount of industry around my city. I mean, there's 1 production, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I can actually see it right here. Good job, brain. Either way, I have quite a lot of production on my own. So I see as well that changing my population around like so will not change the amount of time it would take me to get the Founders Memorial. It would take 2 turns regardless if I have 1 population and 2 population working on industry. Because I have quite a big amount of industry around my city, I'm actually going to leave my population be the way it is, because this will actually allow me to grow next population a little bit faster, and I still have enough production that I believe I will not need to stockpile it. Now, why would you possibly want to move your population into industry when it doesn't even make a difference when Founding Memorials is still going to be made within 2 turns? Well, the thing is, if it is made within 2 turns right now, I have more industry carried over to the next production than if I had industry Founders Memorial finished right now. Because there's less industry created, and this industry is saved for 1 turn, and it is carried over to the next production. It is something you need to keep in mind. So it is often worthwhile to actually move your population into industry production regardless. However, because my territory right now, the terrain around me, gives me a substantially decent, wow, my brain is failing me tonight. Either way, it is still a fairly good area in terms of raw production industry production rather, so I'm willing to risk it for a biscuit and put one population on food for 110. Why only 110? Because in 110 I'll gain the access to Mill Foundry, by which point I'll focus heavily on industry, because Mill Foundry is very important. Alright, Mill Foundry is here. What do I want to do? Focus on industry. What else can I do? I can make a leg sell. Mill Foundry first, Founders Memorial later, and I can also buy it out for 16 dust so that it is made right away. Does it change anything? No. Either way, Mill Foundry will be made in 3 turns. So I can just leave this production be like this, Founders Memorial will finish, and it will give me extra production and food and science and everything else that it gives you. So let's just leave the build as it is. If there is a difference between this and this, then you might consider buying out Founders Memorial, but only if it is cheap. 16 dust is okay. 20, I would argue, is still okay-ish, but it's pushing it. 24 is probably the maximum. It's just arbitrary numbers I'm throwing around right now, but generally the principle is you want to be able to cast your secondary Pillar of Knowledge as soon as possible. So right now, as you can see, I can cast mine straight away. And I'm going to do it, because I need to have as much science production as humanly possible in the early game. However, if you were unable to make it quickly and were tempted to buy out, then don't buy it out. You're probably going to need the science more than anything else, because there are a lot of things that you need. You need to have the seed storage, you need to have the public library, the zealots, and you also need to have the language square. Those are the absolute essentials, and that is not even, you know, venturing forward to the territory of other things that you probably are going to need, like glass steel weapons, heroes, money to buy out more things, ability to spend less money on buyouts. There are all this you need, really. So you need to have as much science production as humanly possible, and those pillars are how you're going to get it. Alrighty then, I think I explained myself fairly well here. So this is how you want to do it. After you gain access to Mill Foundry, focus on it. And this is going to give your city a lot of production potential, which you are going to need a lot. Produce 40 science in one of your city for 10 turns. This is going to be fairly difficult to achieve, but it is actually a very worthwhile quest to complete, because, simply speaking, this influence will allow us to declare war on another faction faster. Remember, we're not roving clans, we actually need to declare war on people. Right, we cannot do that yet. Because without war, we cannot actually attack them. That's important to keep in mind. Alright, we have gained access to seed storage, which is good. Let's queue it up right away and keep focusing on industry production. Now, I can guarantee you that I would still not be able to buy out the Mill Foundry unless you started in an area... Try to say this again. Unless you started in an area with a lot of dust, you're probably not going to be able to buy out the Mill Foundry. If you are, then it's probably not going to matter too much, because you'll just buy it out at 10 earlier. How much does 110 mean? Not a lot. Sure, if you want to go for a speedrun like I do, it does mean something, but it's not a substantial difference, and you don't want... Okay then, sure. This game really wants me to be a warmonger. I'm fine with that. Only problem being, it is going to be rather difficult to produce for the industry for a single city. But actually, now that I think about it, it's actually not going to be hard at all. What am I even talking about? I'll be producing this amount very quickly. Alright, so scanning some more minor factions, the Adebres. Actually, hold on a second. What is this final faction? Oh, the Kazanji. Yeah, they're not too useful for us. Kazanji are decent enough, because they give you influence, and you will need a lot of influence to declare war on other people. Which is why, when you are a warmonger Ardent Mage, it's English, why you fail me so bad? When you are a warmongering Ardent Mage, you probably want to have Kazanji on your side. That's true, I can dig it. But on the other side, there are also other minor factors that could benefit you more. It is very situational. I mean, if you are struggling to find strategic resources, then the slicks are very important, because they will give you the glass steel you need to actually equip your army with glass steel weaponry. So there's that. Vice snakes, well, they are OP right now. So I don't know in the future how good they will be, but right now there's little reason not to go for Vice Snakes, because they give you extra speed. Speed is good for Warmonger, and Vice Snakes themselves as units are really powerful, and they are perfect body shields for your range units as well. What else would I consider? The standard units that I mentioned in my other Mages playthrough, really. There are not too many different things when playing as Ardent Mage or a Warmonger Ardent Mage, except you might want to recruit Kazanji, whereas usually you may not necessarily want to. Alright, this hero is a general. What do I want to give him? I could go for Indiana Bones. I mean, It's not the worst idea ever, but I don't trust it. I have notoriously bad luck, and I'm known for gaining nothing from Indiana Bones, even after gaining the skill. And yeah, so I personally will not go for it because I don't trust my luck. I believe that regardless I will not gain good benefits from ruins. And especially now that I have actually gained fairly good quests from ruins, amusingly enough, now I trust this game even less to give me something decent. So I will instead go for the defensive tactician first and ignore the Indiana Bones. If you have prefer to go for Indiana Bones and risk it a little bit, be my guest, because sometimes the rewards from ruins can be very significant and make you an even better warmonger than usual. Alright, where do I want to go? In fact, I want to just scan around in a circle-like motion around my setting area. Remember, this is a small world, so everything is close together, and I expect to see enemy areas fairly quickly. Additionally, I also really need to scout out my enemy's area, because I need to know where his city is, how to best attack it, where is the high ground, where are the forests, etc, etc. That Sisters of Mercy, nobody ever wants them, so let's ignore them for the time being. Poor guys, they really need a buff, they really do. And oh boy, I missed it! I actually, first things first, I gained access to the Zealots, which is good, and secondly, I have finished creating my mill foundry. So as you can see right now, it is 10 number 7. In my city I have the mill foundry, the Founders Memorial, and the seed storage. All the units you need, all the structures you need for a very good, stronger early game opener. Something that every player is going to try and get as soon as possible early on in the game, because those are essential structures for you. No matter who you play as, unless, well, you play as Broken Lords or Necrophagers, but let's not talk about that. Either way, things right now go for the same for most players, but the particular build order that you have carried out, if you followed my instructions, is going to ensure that you are indeed going to gain as much production as quickly as possible, which is very important. If you, for example, change the build order around and go for the siege storage before the mill foundry, you would not have gotten the access to public library and zealots as quickly as now. You wouldn't have as much production right now, and in general you wouldn't be where you are right now, and you would still be on free population, I can almost guarantee you. If you focus on population the entire way through and just kept your population like so, well, possibly you would be on 4, maybe 5 population, but you would have barely any structures and barely any anything, in fact. So I think that the build order I have showed you is the best build order for a young, aspiring warmonger. Congratulations. Now, what do I want to do? I want to see if I can retrofit my zealots, because right now I can, of course, equip them with some iron. Do I want to do this? And now you may be surprised, because I'll say, yes, I do. Now, why you may be surprised? Because iron lowers your initiative. Iron armor, to be more precise. So right now, my initiative is 1 instead of 4. So why did I give those guys iron equipment? Well, here's the deal. Because either way, they have the lowest initiative out of orange units in the game. And I can guarantee you, when you're playing against a human opponent, your human opponent will certainly make sure that his initiative stays higher than yours whenever he can afford it to be like so. So if I were facing, no, I'm not sure, I actually want to apply those changes. So if this voter was actually a human opponent, I can guarantee you that he will not equip his marines with anything that lowers the initiative, because this way his marines will fire before my Ardent Mages. If, however, this player was retarded and brain dead and equipped his marines with armor, then yes, I would have better initiative. But trust me, nobody's going to be this dumb. AI might be, but you shouldn't bank on it. So, as such, I believe there's no reason not to give your zealots some armor. It gives them extra protection and you lose nothing for it, because your initiative is going to be garbage regardless. So why not go for it? Once you gain access to Glass Tier or a hero that boosts your initiative, yes, then get it out of here as quickly as possible, don't even think about it. However, because that is not the case, you know, why not have a bit of extra defense? I see no reason not to. It is not going to save your units most likely, but it might, so just take your chances. As for weapon, well, you have a choice between a Ranged Slayer, as you can see, and a Warrior Slayer. Whatever suits your needs. I am currently facing against a Volter enemy, so I do need to have some extra Ranged Slayer. Now, of course, there are also different stats between those two ones, and you again might choose something that you prefer. This one in particular, it actually gives you 1 extra initiative, but have a look at this. Even if it gives extra initiative, it gives you initiative of 7, which is... Actually, I believe it is equal to the second worst ranged unit initiative, and those might be actually Marines. So if I were to attack the enemy like so, I would be rolling the dice if I will attack first or not. And in fact, because I will be rolling the dice, I will go over the setup. So I just defeated my whole point completely. However, if you are facing another opponent that is not voters, they will have a higher initiative than you. And in this case, you want the armor. You really will. However, if you're not facing... if you are facing voters, you can risk it a little bit. Now, this is a risk. If you want to play it safe, put on armor anyway, because you will survive a little bit more against the voters if they actually happen to have a high initiative than you. And actually, because I'm not a lag-based player, I like to be more careful about things. I'm actually going to go for no initiative, better defense build altogether, especially since you have to also remember that this stuff does give you range flare, which does increase your damage against Marines, which is important. Is it as important as firing first? No, but you can't guarantee the fact that you'll fire first regardless, but you can guarantee the fact that your shot will be devastating, and that's what you need in my opinion. So no, I'm not sure. So this is the build I'm going to go for. You may choose otherwise. You may choose to risk it. You may choose to go for say initiative. If you do, be my guest, but keep in mind the enemy has means, very easy means in fact, of boosting their Marines initiative above 7 as well. In fact, I'm trying to figure out, I think with bows their initiative is actually higher than 7. I don't remember right now off the top of my head, but it might be the case. So yeah, actually, just go for the armor. Really, you're risking nothing if you do, and you might, it might keep your units alive for a little bit longer. So let's do it like so, and make sure that I'm starting to make zealots. And let's just make as many of them as possible. This is my construction queue right now. Will I modify it? Possibly, but not necessarily. Now, why do I want to keep all my population on production instead of moving one like so? It's because some of these zealots will be finished later, and I don't want it. And either way, as you can see, I'll gain next population 2 turns. So, yeah, let's just go with it. And this videocast is actually 7 minutes? More or less that. Long already, and oh, those are sellers. Now, you do want to stop the enemy sellers from expanding anywhere, so let's just go ahead and make sure that I can intercept and kill them possibly. Even though I cannot visit those ruins right now. But either way, this videocast is long enough right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, it was PANCZASU, also known as the Mighty Mix Spammer. Thank you very much for watching. New videocasts are going to come in 2 or 3 days. Keep in mind, right now I am not home at the time when you're watching this videocast. This is all pre-recorded because I'm away in a foreign country. I have no way of recording videos, so I have recorded all of this beforehand for you to enjoy. Regardless, I firmly believe that all the tips I'm going to give you and that I already gave you are going to stand the test of time and be useful for you regardless. And additionally, if that is not the case, I have access to internet. I can post corrections in the comments on YouTube. Additionally, if you want to contact me, remember there is such a thing as Twitter, the link is in the description. If you want to chat with me, be my guest again. Even when I'm not home, I will have access to Twitter. Either way, thank you very much for watching and I'll see you online.